Welcome to the overview video of the Park Down and Abscott Lane site, subject of proposed development for N equals 173 housing number. The objectives of this video are to 1. Memorialise the objections so that material fact may be scrutinised. 2. To assist local people by describing the working of the planning system. To provide knowledge on how to make an effective planning objection, and in doing so assist in the identification of effective planning policies and to identify valid material concerns on the site, and to guide you to a template that you may wish to use, share, adopt or submit. We'll try to answer some of the questions raised at the meeting of the 9th of September 2024, which we've appended to the end of the presentation. In the process of doing so, we'll walk you literally through the planning site, showing you video capture of some of the issues relevant. As the scope of this material is enormous, you may wish to watch this video in two halves. You may stop the video at any time to read any text or map. Planning can be a tedious process, and we have tried to make the material as interesting as we can and to be suitable to all levels. So let's get the more dry material out of the way before we move to the issues of flooding and the dam, so bear with us. So, what makes a good planning objection? It should set out any reasons for extension, such as the absence of any statutory consultee or delay in the response, because you cannot make an objection to an application if it's prejudiced in the absence of information. Having set out a request for extension, most importantly, it should be in two parts. Firstly, it should identify national planning policies that the planning officers must adhere to. And secondly, it should identify the material planning concerns on the site itself. All material planning concerns must be robust, as there is a tendency to deal with any material site objections at reserved matters after permission is granted. As material site concerns are often mitigated at reserved matters, they really must be robust and difficult to mitigate. As you can see, this is a sketch format of how your objection should look. On the planning policies, we are not going to ream off a long list and explain them, which would take forever, and it may be taken as read that they are present on the template, all being in the time we've had permitted to produce them. Please feel free to use, add or submit what we have produced. We are not the font of all knowledge and hope to be able to provide you with material fact that you can participate. In the application itself, we have identified 5 key material concerns. Major robust concerns are identified in the second of 2 slides, which can be paused at any time and read. We also enclosed the Historic England submission to the Preferred Site Regulation 18 consultation, which will become further apparent when we visit the Schoolfold and Moor Top Farm area on the Eastern Watercourse walk. Whilst filming the Eastern Watercourse, we also paused and filmed some of the traffic congestion and site access problems at the Abscott Lane Common Road roundabout, which will impact on the local primary school, diverting traffic onto its footprint. We are now going to turn our attention to the major robust issues, beginning with mines, and in particular ground stability to the front of the dam, contamination and mine gas. We will also be looking at flood issues in relation to the linked and connected matter of proximity to the dam and the 2 large raised reservoirs of high capacity, sustainable drainage and local flooding. We'll also identify the HSE zone, placing restrictions on housing numbers due to the dangerous industrial activity, and we'll also go into in detail on the template objection BNL, which is biodiversity net loss as a result of the development. We are now going to look at issues of mines on site, the direction of which is set by the statutory consultee, the Coal Authority. The principal concerns are ground stability, contamination and mine gas. And in particular, ground stability, given the proximity of mines to the frontage of the dam and any permeation of water through the subsoils which might cause instability at a future date. The fields facing the collecting basin, particularly in the southern proximity, will inevitably have some form of seasonal subterranean seepage across the ground layer, which when considered with the very close proximity of mines is a factor which I cannot see has been taken into consideration, particularly in mines which are grouted and plugged. It is clear that this is not a simple site, and we have two issues going on here. The proximity of any potential spillage from the dam, which is a large capacity dam, the influence of seepage maybe from it, and obviously the stability and proximity of mines to the front of it, mean this is by no means a single issue concern. So let's have a look at the Coal Authority maps, which many people will have not seen, and you can make your own mind up. The maps aren't at a particularly high resolution, so I've taken the liberty to blow them up a little so they're clear. From these maps we can see that the area is close to or within an area of high risk and unsuitable for development. We can also see the presence of mine shafts on the site with entry and the potential zone of influence of those shafts on the site. Developers will seek to remediate these mine shafts by grouting or plugging them, and on the issues of mine gas they will put membranes to exclude. However, developers often can't mitigate the unpredictable effects of ground stability. We turn now to the required statutory consultee, the Health and Safety Executive, where the site is located within the middle zone of a dangerous industrial manufacturing area, namely Salinas and one other. The comment from the HSE on the Regulation 18 Preferred Sites consultation is to limit the housing number to 40. This number has already been exceeded in the Delph Hill Middle School development on the site opposite. As per the meeting of the 9th of September 24, we have taken the liberty to contact the HSE to see if these zones of influence have changed as a result of manufacturing. Likewise, it is unclear how the developer will justify 173N houses when the preferred site consultation limited or restricted the numbers to 40. We are now going to take an in-depth view to the maintenance of Park Dam and its watercourses, as it bounds the site on all four sides. We examine it in the context of flooding, drainage, and the implications of riparian rights on the watercourses located on it. We believe we have done this with due diligence in the light of the Toddbrook Dam incident. Where we make reference to the dam and its watercourses, we do so in respect of the compass at the midpoint on the development site. So let's start at the beginning, where the water comes in. Okay, so it's 13th Friday in September and we're back at the Park Dam. Today we're going to have a little look at the inlet, which is just down there. Hopefully the camera doesn't go into the water. So we just put the camera down. You can see we're actually directly looking into the inlet that feeds Park Dam. There we go, bird's eye view. You can even hear the echo. So that culvert runs all the way over to Brow Woods, just at the side of Fenwick Drive, and this tops up and fills the dam. There is no inlet diversion should you want to stop it coming in here. As we look up in the distance, we're going to go to the other side of the dam to look at the two outlet channels, the one in the south, which is on the Delph Hill side, and the one in the north, which is on the Cheviot Bar side, and we'll be looking at the outflow. So the purpose of the visit today is to look at the inflow into the dam, the outflow, the integrity of the dam wall, and then to go forward and look at the potential breach point in the corner where the north part of the reservoir turns into a channel mouth. Park Dam can be seen here on the 1854 Ordnance Survey map. Park dam is an impounding dam, meaning it catches water and drainage from the surrounding hill slope hydrology from the 225 contour line. Here on the 1897 Moor map, we can get a brief insight into how the dam was terraced and constructed as a collecting basin. As we move across the reservoir to the side closest to the development site at Abscott Lane, we can immediately see it has two channels. A channel to the north, which is a runoff channel, and a channel to the south, which is the dam spillway channel moving through Park Bottom Wood. Before we commence our journey around the watercourses, that being very important in the context of the Moor Act and the restrictions on the development site, we take a very close look at the anatomy of the dam. Park dam is an impounding dam, meaning it collects runoff and drainage from the surrounding hill slopes, as opposed to an unimpounding dam, which is normally filled with pumps and other means. The Park dam has an area of 27.8 metres squared and a depth of approximately 56,000 cubic metres. The depth of the dam varies across the irregular basin to approximately 1 metre at one end till about 14 foot or 3 metres at the other. Somewhere in between, the depth of the dam absolute will be approximately no more than 10 metres. However, we have yet to determine how that depth has been measured and have an ongoing request with the Environment Agency to establish those facts. Link in the description. Park dam consists of a vertical stone wall containing the stone basin and is supported by an earthen embankment tapering towards its base. The overall cross-section is shaped like a foot, and the area away from the water tapering is called the toe, and the area closest to the water is called the heel. In the middle of the dam or thereabouts, we have an apparatus known as sluice. The purpose of the sluice is to clear sediment from the base of the dam. We also have a spillway, which in the case of Park dam, when the north watercourse capacitates and the water rises to the maximum water level, the spillway becomes triggered and will disperse or displace water into the southern water channel which runs through Park Bottom Wood. There are two marks, which are the maximum water level when the spillway triggers and the normal water level. The distance between the maximum water level and the normal water level is called the freeboard. At the top of the dam, we have an area which we can walk across, and it is known as the crest. It is the job of a dam engineer or a supervising engineer to ensure that the hill slope side containing grass is maintained, cut and free from any disruptive vegetation. As we walk across the crest of the dam and the embankment, we identify various features such as the sluice, and we also undertake, using available resources, a very crude demonstration on hydrostatic pressure acting as a force on the wall. Don't worry, we haven't overlooked the spillway. We will return to the spillway since it feeds the southernmost watercourse, and we will look at the spillway in greater detail at that point. So let's just follow the embankment. Again, reason for following the embankment is because within the Reservoir Act, one of the key values is the height of the elevation of the reservoir from top level to the base level of the fields below us here. And that is, as measured, a good 10 metres. It's becoming more evident here looking down, and probably less evident from the video, but you can see the extent of that slope. So if I actually now go up, let's go back up and look down, see if you can get the perspective on the height. Just move it up. You can see this is a considerable height above the planning site, and therefore it is a raised elevated dam within the meaning of the Reservoir Act. Who knows what the capacity is on the dam? Who knows if the council have submitted an application for a disused dam? But whether it's disused or not doesn't remove the fact that there is, at the very least, 50,000 cubic metres or more, likely more, directly behind the housing site. Okay, so moving onward, we're going to come to one of the first channels. The argument is going to be that the dam drains from each of the channels either side, but if those channels become blocked, if the embankment becomes disrupted, bearing in mind that the field that we just filmed is absolutely rife with mines and mine workings, because most of the block stone that has gone to build this reservoir will be mined quite locally from quarries and excavation sites. So this gives you an indication of the frontage of the dam. As we can see, is it any wonder that the dam is giving indicators of pollution? So moving onwards round to where the channel takeoff is from the dam, we can see the extent of the stone walling and indeed the condition of it in parts, and the earth embankment, which we've looked at in substantial detail. And as we look across, we can see the culvert access and the midpoint, which we looked at. So we're now moving round, and again, if we have a look along the edge of this embankment, which we're going to traverse, you can see a crude stone wall there. So, you know, this potentially could be a breach weak point. We don't know until we see certifications from structural and panel engineers. So opposite the other side we have the gardens, which have been sequestered and are restricting access directly around the dam. Again, it's entirely debatable as to whether the council disposed of the open space in a correct way. So let's pause a little bit from the seriousness of planning matters and have a look. This fella coming towards us is a mute swan who is resident on the dam. As we can see, very distinct mute swan, orange beak with a black front, and the other little bird in the background there is a coot. So let's move onwards. As you can see, the bank at this corner changes, and we're going to rapidly walk towards the channel. Part of the objective of this is to look at the right of way leading off from it and try to establish if the... So on the way across the dam front, we did a very crude demonstration illustrating the forces of hydrostatic pressure acting on the dam wall and influencing the velocity and spread or extent of any flood on the EA predictive maps. As a community, we cannot overemphasize the immense value that the reservoir and open space in its current form brings to our area and community, and reflect the dam's role in preventing the Allied Colloids fire in 1992, where the links are in description, and which we also reflect in our health and safety zone objection on proximity. Perhaps the moral of the tale is to leave well alone. Is coming out on the base. We can see that's influenced by the hydrostatic pressure. If you upturn it, you can see how different the water is as it comes out. And obviously, as you raise it higher, with the on it, the jet will reach further. So we turn it back up the other way, and we can see clearly as the hydrostatic pressure goes off towards the hull, the amount of water at its distance reduces. The main purpose of this demonstration is to demonstrate what hydrostatic pressure is. The hydrostatic pressure, the forces on this wall, are very much down to the capacity of the dam, and the current estimated capacity of Park Avenue Dam is in and around the 56,000 cubic metres. So that wasn't a very good demonstration, but I'm simply illustrating that on this dam there is a tremendous amount of force on the walls, and we have to ensure that no overspill occurs. And on this site, that's achieved by the two outflow channels. The first channel to the north is obviously a runoff channel, and the one to the south, which is where we looked at the spillway, is an overflow when the water levels drop from or raise, a big pardon, to the maximum levels. It overspills, and it is supposed to go through the Park Bottom Wood, which we can see that hasn't happened for quite some time. So that's just a rough indication of factors relating to the dam. We're now going to go onward, and we're going to look at the mouth of the dam and where there may be a potential breach point. Okay, so here we have where the watercourse should make its way to. As you can see there, actually there's a little culvert in the wall there, and that should flow down into the wood. You can see the basis of a wall and a culvert channel coming through it, which is quite interesting. So that culvert from the dam should run through that, and then it should run off through the woods. Let's have a look at the sluice house here. So this will be a sluice, and somewhere in there this sluice gate can be opened to remove the sediment from the base of the dam. It's clearly been an awful long time since anything has been sluiced out, or if at all. They probably nowadays dredge it. So obviously I'm not party to what is in there. It would be nice to know. Typically pre-war. Let's have a look. And then we have some sort of a shaft here as well, which is all to do with the sluice. So let's have a look if we can. I don't think we're going to get a glimpse down here, but what I'm going to try to do is stand on this pile of stones like so, and have a view of what is in there. If anything, I'm too small to see. Clearly there was a ladder at some point, and clearly it's either a grill, which I can feel with my hands, as you can see, and I'm going to move the camera around and hope we can see what that is going to. So that's actually probably feeding in to the base of the sluice for the purposes of airlocks and things like that. So that's the structures, and that is the rear of possibly the sluice gate. Okay, so we're going to approach the little mouth, little triangular offshoot of the dam, which is where it channels in to the North Channel and onwards along the side of the field. So it's basically surrounded on both sides and to the front with some form of water courses. So this is the north course here, and you can see the small length of wall supporting the earth rampart here. So this earth rampart continues. As you can see, there's the main dam, so most of the force is carried forward against that face. And then we have the off-chat channel, which should drain the reservoir. Again, there's a good shot of the wall. We're going to go down there and have a look at that in a minute. And now we're going to walk along off the crest effectively. You know, this is now to the front of the dam. And we're going to go around and look at this triangular inlet which constitutes the mouth of the North Channel, which is the controversial channel that the council need to be kept maintained. So as you can see, it's well used. Again, this little wall on the toe of the dam has extended around here as part of the field boundary. So we're just going to go down and have a look at that. So just to get the feel of it, there is the frontage where the majority of force will be. It then tapers off into the little triangular mouth, which then goes onward down the channel. So, and we're just going to go down here now in the field and look at the wall structure. Okay, so here's the water channel, which looks fairly static, and obviously it comes and runs from the dam, which we can see in the distance from the little triangle piece. So we followed it all the way up. Behind the trees is Abscott Lane, so we're very close now to the main road. And what I want to demonstrate on this video is where this channel, which is dug out, takes a sharp right and runs in front of School Fold. So here we are. I remember crossing this when it had no vegetation. This will take you out at the dry stone wall at the boundary of this corner field. But I just want to demonstrate how deep down the channel is, because when I last crossed it you had to drop down quite a considerable depth. So this is quite dangerous in so much as, if we look where we're at now, you can see clearly there is a retained section here where it is now turning, and it's turning right and going right across the field. Now, I'm not sure if that culvert's under the road, and from memory I don't think it does, because the road is quite some distance away, as you can see through the trees. So I think basically this culvert takes a right. That little piece of water just pooling in the distance there just looks to be where it's come round the corner and taken part of the embankment out. The main point is the wall. Yeah, as you can see, let's have a look at that wall without falling in. There you go. Look at that. You can see that is a construction, and it has been made in conjunction with the channel outlet from the dam at this end. You can see the flow of the water there, flowing quite well actually from here. And if you look onwards, we're going to follow that channel up in front of the cottage. Now we might have difficulty doing that because it's so overgrown, which makes you wonder why the riparian owner wouldn't cut it back. So let's go and have a look at the channel further up. Okay, so I just want to demarcate where we are with the cottage. So just having a wee look at the front plaster, so that when we look at the old image of the cottage, when we get back on the video, we can identify where we're actually stood. We're actually stood in front of the cottage. The stream is directly in front of us, and the purpose of this little walkthrough was to identify that you can still see what would have been the palisade fence of the garden there. Obviously long since dilapidated. We come into this little section, so it might not be true to say that this could have been the last resident, but let's go forward. We're out into a more open clearing, and we can see again the likely boundary of School Fold there, which is this part here, and you can still see the fencing that persisted from 2000 or so. There ahead you can see the channel onwards. There you can see the abysmal condition that the beck is left in. Either the council or Mr. Morrow is responsible for this, one or other, but in my opinion, given the Low Moor Act, the riparian owner of this is likely to be the council due to the limitation of reservation of rights in the Low Moor Act. But from a freshwater point of view, this is disgraceful to see this channel physically cause problems, least alone disruption to wildlife and animals by this degree of debris and rubbish. So I'm just going to go back again and look at the little arch bridge under the School Fold from both sides. Okay, so we've just come along. It's very vegetatively overgrown, deliberately so I think. You know, it's just been left to overgrow, so I'm not going to plough through that vegetation, but what will be the other side of it is the drainage channel, which has come off at a right angle. So we're going to follow through and pick up that little channel in School Fold. This is the remnants of School Fold. A lot of the shrubbery and biodiversity is actually coming from what would have been a well-kept garden at one point. So let's just keep moving round and onward to where the demarcation is here. If we have a look, you can see where people have taken pathways to reach this right of access, which will take us back out onto School Fold past the side of the cottages. In the process of doing so, we're going to have a little look inside the perimeter. It's interesting there, look, we have a drain, some steps up in to what would have been a door or a whatever. We're starting to come round now to where, if we follow it through, it will come out on Avscott Lane where the School Fold sign is. So just before we go down ahead, the little lane which is School Fold, which is marked as a street or a lane, we come here and into School Fold, the frontage of School Fold itself, and as you can see, that wall in front there. And as we look down now, I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up because it's very dark in here, but you can see a wall. If you listen, you can hear the flow on that stream, so it's clearly flowing from the corner culvert, as we heard, almost like a babbling stream. In fact, there we go. I don't know if that might be a little bit clear. There's quite a good flow rate here, and as you can see, the section on the other side has been clearly maintained as a channel. If you look, you can see that's fallen down because of the tree, but all the way along the outer wall there, we have a clearly defined watercourse between two walls, and that will go all the way up to where we had a look at the bend in the North Channel. So yes, this came across in front of the School Fold cottages. Yes, it's a watercourse clearly defined between two boundary walls, and it cuts directly in front of School Fold. Okay, so I just want to demarcate where we are with the cottage. So just having a wee look at the front plaster, so that when we look at the old image of the cottage, when we get back on the video, we can identify where we're actually stood. We're actually stood in front of the cottage. The stream is directly in front of us, and the purpose of this little walkthrough was to identify that you can still see what would have been the palisade fence of the garden there, obviously long since dilapidated. We come into this little section, so it might not be true to say that this could have been the last resident, but let's go forward. We're out into a more open clearing, and we can see again the likely boundary of School Fold there, which is this part here, and you can still see the fencing that persisted from 2000 or so. There ahead you can see the channel onwards. There you can see the abysmal condition that the beck is left in. Either the council or Mr. Morrow is responsible for this, one or other, but in my opinion, given the Low Moor Act, the riparian owner of this is likely to be the council due to the limitation of reservation of rights in the Low Moor Act. But from a freshwater point of view, this is disgraceful to see this channel physically cause problems, least alone disruption to wildlife and animals by this degree of debris and rubbish. So I'm just going to go back again and look at the little arch bridge under the School Fold from both sides. So we then went on to look at the two little culverts going under the bridge, which spans the little lane at School Fold, which was the cottage that we were looking at. So here we are back along the channel. You can see clearly to the front that there is a clearly defined watercourse between stone walling, and as we approach, I think I'm going to have to do a little bit of limbo through some of the branches. Here we are. As we go onward, we want to get a glimpse again of the little stone arch on the culvert, or the North Channel, which is spanning the lane at School Fold. So we're going to look at it at this site. I'm just going to push the camera over a little bit. And there you can see a beautifully constructed little arch which constitutes the bridge over School Fold. If we follow it through quickly, you can get a gist of that, where that is in relation to the site. So we're coming off the front of School Fold. You can see the walling, the little side gate. We've been to the front, little remnant of a garden, through the gate and onward, and it should take us out where, and there's the other side of the bridge. I'm not sure if we can get a glimpse of that, but we're certainly going to have a go in a minute. And we come onward, which we've done before, out to the very end here, and you can get the gist of the area in front of School Fold, as you can see from the overgrown vegetation. So we come onward, out we come here onto Abscott Lane. You can see basically the old sign at School Fold, and then if we look down this way, we see the traffic on Abscott Lane, which is now picking up, and you can see how dense the traffic is, and obviously that this is some of the problems that we'll have with traffic. If this is how busy it is now, it's going to be incredibly busy when the development comes into being. This small site in and around Moorside Farm has enormous history and heritage in the built landscape. Moorside Farm itself is connected to Royds Hall Manor on the nearby hillside. The cottage at School Fold dates back till 1790 or before and was used in 1798 by John Wesley to preach before the first Wesleyan chapel. This picture shows the cottage, which is likely to overlook the view to the dam. John Wesley himself is likely to have preached here. Here is a short section of slides indicating the importance of the Low Moor connection through the hall and through the Wesleyan Reform group. This small hamlet, predating Abscott Lane itself, also has a mineral house and mineral cottages associated with the Pithead mine at the top of the hill slope at Royds Hall. Tramway trucks were trundled either by horse and cart or gravity across the mineral track that runs across the centre of the field. I've included this picture of the former Delphill Middle School in the 1980s, of which is likely derived in the roots of School Fold. What we can see here is a picture of the school pond and a picture of the culvert outflow. This pond was to be retained as part of the development opposite, but never was, and it's clear and apparent that the Watercourse falls under the restrictive control of the Low Moor Act. Clearly the developers, if challenged on a legal challenge, would be placed in an awkward position in regard to ignoring the reserve rights which the Low Moor Company retained. The school itself closed some time ago and is now the site of the development which we can see today. Okay, so we're back on the bridge at School Fold. We're now looking at the right hand side as you come from the dam field, and you can see underneath here the channel is running, and that is going to be the other side of the well constructed archway on the culvert, piece of Victorian engineering that's lasted and been tested. And then obviously as we come up, we're on the bridge where the culvert runs through, and we've looked at it from this side. We have a quick peek over. There you can see perhaps a better shot of the walling. So this has been an engineered or constructed watercourse which is clearly defined within discrete boundaries. So what I'm going to do now is go back to the corner of the field where the culvert was put in to catch debris. It's absolutely bemusing as to why you do all that effort downstream and not address the issue of what we've just seen by way of the blocked channel and vegetation overgrowing the North Channel outflow. Just doesn't bear sense, and I suspect this is a right of way sign because it's in the old council colours for rights of way. So we're going to do a very quick sprint ahead to film the culvert that was put in by the current owner, allegedly £37,000 worth of work, and this is supposed to stop the debris going onwards. This first house here is a private home, and then the other houses behind that, with one or two exceptions, is basically also belonging to the current landowner. Just have a quick look. As you can see, we're now at the frontage of the development, and we're going to have a look at the outflow grid right at the very end or corner of the development site, which is a bizarre place to put it. So here we are. We've picked up, as you can see, the flowing brook which will have come through that vegetation over the bridge. So it's actually taken the form now of a meandering stream. Although having said that, you can still see defined stone on the walls as a water course. So onward we go, and here is 30,000 £36,000 worth of work, which, let's have a look. Is it doing the job? Well, time will tell. Clearly you can see that it is going to stop very large debris, but I'm not entirely convinced as to where it is. You know, it seems to me most of the problem is caused upstream. Here you can see a little bit of a stone wall as well, and a very healthy flow coming across, and you might just be able to get a glimpse into the culvert if I put the camera down at a low angle. So this is the culvert at the very end of the perimeter before we go to the other side of the development at the back of the farm. Once we were on Schoolfold, we stepped out onto Abscott Lane to survey the traffic. We moved to the roundabout where we can immediately see Common Road to the left and Abscott Lane to the right, leading on to the major junction at Huddersfield Road on both routes. The major impact of having 173 houses on a two-car household will mean that there's at least 376 vehicles additional to what is a very limited access site, and likely to cause an increase in accidents and danger to the children in the primary school. This is the junction between Common Road directly in front and the traffic coming up Abscott Lane. It's obviously delineated by a small roundabout, but this road gets chronically busy, and onto the entrance at the base of Huddersfield Road is a very dangerous junction indeed, very difficult to get out of. So this is basically Common Road to the front and Abscott Lane, and there are going to be two entries into the property. So having traversed the west dam face, the north watercourse and the defined watercourse across the eastern proximity, we now look at the southern defined watercourse, which runs southwards from the spillway and through the boundary woodland to and through Park Bottom. The riparian watercourses being subject of a legal constraint and a reserve right on title given by Parliament through a Moor Act. Okay, so we've arrived at the southern corner of the dam where the spillway is, and we can get a really clear view where effectively it has been notched out of the main top level of the crest of the dam. The area running along the top, which you can walk along, in dam parlance is called the crest. This is called the spillway, and when the level of the water reaches the top step, we'll have a look at how the water cascades down a spillway ramp, and the watercourse should then go through the little wood in the middle. So here we can see this has been recently worked on, I think within the past 10 years, and the spillway has been altered or constructed. So we're going to have a little look at the other side of this to look at the integrity of the ramp. So here we are, looking at the spillway. And there's no defined channel on the clay channel as soon as it lives. And we can also see that's pretty heavily silted. Not the most ideal place to live in every sense of the word, but you can see where that crude dugout clay channel moves in through the woods, or it should do. But it's been obviously a while since they've had an overspill, or potentially the channel is actually being used on a spill event. You can see some general leakage through the brick and through permeating likely through the soil on the rampart, which is not the correct term, but on the earth dam to the front. This section that you can walk across is called the crest, and obviously you can see the cobbled spillway, which hasn't had any pointing for some long time, and you can see water egress coming from the bricks. Okay, so we're now actually in the spillway. Since it's quite a dry day, we're going to take an opportunity to get up close with the dam. So let's have a look here at some of the brickwork, which, you know, to me could use some pointing, and you can see some inherent leakage coming out off the brickwork and obviously forming a small amount of water. You can see the leakage here, here, here and here. I'm not a dam engineer. I don't know how significant that is, if at all. And we must remember, when we talk about dams, we're talking about worst case scenarios, so there's no need to panic about the safety assessments, but it is particularly good practice for everybody to look and comment. Obviously, with the Toddbrook Dam and Whaley Bridge episode, the lessons learned finding was most of dam issues are caused by human error. So we need to be sure that our engineers managing these facilities have got it right, and that's what my visit today is all about. So just have a little look again. You can see the concrete blocks, the parapet on the metal railing that we've seen on the other side, some pointing to the capstones, and we've looked at the rest of it. So I'm going to go very gingerly down the ramp because it is a little bit slippy still, but a good day to come in here because there's no rain today. I really don't know what the tent's about. It's not the most ideal place to set up home, but it may be somebody's home, so let's not be judgmental. Okay, so when the spillway overspills, it comes here into the crude earth channel, and you can see this is pretty crumbly earth. You know, that will basically quickly erode and quickly block because there's no defined channel, as you can see. So I'm going to attempt to follow where the water would go if there was a spill. Again, it will make its way out, but as we get here we can see it starts to become pretty blocked, in fact, and you know, the water will flow this direction, but I do think it could backlog up and you will have local flooding as a result. I'm not going to go through that vegetation because it's full of bramble, but I am going to go back up if I can get up. Let's have a look. Here we go. Let's just try it. Can't remember where I got down. It's obviously harder to get up than it is to get down, but here we are, up. Excuse the grunting and groaning. So we're back up and we're going to just follow the watercourse round. My lay assessment and observations are that the spillway modification never adjoined the watercourse reaching the mineral track bridge, as it was always intended that that watercourse was for the use of sluice activity. Therefore, the potential of the spillway section to pull and undercut the earthen toe exists and could be a concern, given the object of a spillway is to remove water away from the dam. Okay, so we've just come the other side of the spillway channel, the earth channel out. You can see that we should be able to follow it. Obviously vegetation, trees, we should be able to follow it over to the centre of the wood there. But I am quite concerned that if we look at the discrete length of boundary to the watercourse, particularly on the earth embankment, if the spillway was pooling and diverting onto the toe of the dam directly in front of me, then it could undercut and undermine the toe of the dam, which is not the most ideal thing. If you start to remove the body of earth on that toe back towards the crest, it's clearly going to take away some stability of the overall structure. So lack of discrete channel going all the way along the spillway may not be critical, but it's important to get it right and important to maintain it. Our comment on the NPPF biodiversity requirements will be on the objection itself. I also have longitudinal records and data from this site over a number of years, so I'll be taking this opportunity to simply define the area in blue on the application. The developer has used the woodland margin to contribute to a BNG, a biodiversity net gain. In our assessment, having regard to the north and eastern watercourses and the productive woodland margin, there will be a net biodiversity loss. Our records using bat detection show the presence of bats in this area and populations of owl which will be dispersed due to light pollution. We also have recorded a substantial list of British moths on site as a speciality, they also in their own right being an indicator species. Okay, so we've just come in front of the dam and we've spotted this little arch culvert as well, and a wall which is very well constructed, as you can see. So we're now in the middle section of the wood where the culvert should have led off, which is quite interesting, because at some point there was some World War II grenades found somewhere here. I don't know how far that goes underneath, but it's clearly blocked and overridden. So this is quite an interesting little section of wall which I've not dwelled on before. And I just want to go on to the top of it and see what actually is on the other side of it. As you will see from the old 18th century maps to follow, that this point represented the convergence of three mineral tracks from Judy Woods, Royds Hall and Delph Hill, which moved onward over the little bridge. Okay, so we've come up and the stone walling obviously relates to the track over to Moortop Farm, and if we look all the way up over to the side of Royds Hall Dam up to the fields opposite Fenwick Drive, this is a mineral track where the coal tracks would have trundled, come down this track just roughly where the pylon is, all the way down this track onward in a straight line, nice level and even, and over to the mineral house, which is part of the Low Moor Farm, which this track bisects right down the middle of it. So this will be an old mineral track, and what we looked at just down there is in fact the major stone walling for this little bridge. So we've looked at the walling here and we're going to have a look at the other side of it, and that little culvert we looked at related to the bridge, you know, so that this would have made it even for the mineral track, and it would have allowed water which is running off through the centre wood to go underneath it and pass through the linear little wood that you see on the map. So there we go, this is the other side of it. Quite an elaborate extent of stone to maintain a level road for the movement of mineral wagons. You can clearly see this is being held up with earth, judging by the trees. It's been there for some time, but as you can see, this large section of stone, very crude stone, makes the bridge for the mineral track. And if we look here, we can see an arch which would have effectively taking the culverted water from the spillway through the wood. So there we have it. So let's go have a look at the other side. So we spend a little time doing some detective work and look at the frontage features of the historic landscape and bring into focus also the legal constraint on the reserve title in relation to the trackway or wagonway, which was an old raised mineral line under the Moor Act. It did not take a geophysical survey to discount the reserve title on a trackway, as can be seen from the old maps and visibly from Google Earth on a dry summer, that the track crosses the field towards the BT exchange and it joins subsequently at some point towards the mineral bridge at the corner of Roydshall Dam. There is some considerable irony that the Enclosure Act, by virtue of the non-allotted lands and reservation on title given by way of the Act of Parliament, is now actually protecting the land, its watercourses and its trackways by virtue of a legal constraint. The Council should be aware of any class action contravening any enclosure or gift in trust, whether it be by disposal such as Wibsey Park Lodge or a method interfering with the reserve right on title. Whilst this is not strictly a planning objection, it is a legal constraint, and a legal constraint which the planning officer should seek advice in relation to the layout, design and presentation of the site. So on we go on the journey. We've out of courtesy not filmed the farm for various reasons. We're on the cobble road, or what might be the track. It's not a cobble road, it's a track which is possibly on the Moor map. I've just been speaking to a resident of 83 and he tells me that there is a right of way coming out of the corner of the exchange, and you can see where somebody has actually walked that path, and that right of way coming across here is supposed to go over directly over to the dam. But this is a track, an unmade track, which at one point had the stone walling, which we'll probably see as we come along. So we're going down this track, which I've been told is not a right of way, but we've been given permission to walk along it. I believe that this is actually the right of access to the dam as placed on the Moor Act, and therefore, whilst it might not be a definitive right of way under the council legislation, it is a right of access, or a preserved right to access the dam and its watercourse and anything that comes with it. So as you can see, it is fenced, but at one point it should have a dry stone wall, and as we move onwards we can see that walling appear where the little bridge is occurring over the wooded area, which is greenbelt, as we can see from here. So let's just have a look. I just want to kick around that fencing to see if there is any remnants of stone. I can feel some rough stone underfoot. Yep, can't really see it as such, but it does look as if that stone wall was extended across. I don't know if in this vegetation there's remnants of stone as well, or whether it was just a crude track straight across. But now we're coming to the area where the little bridge is, and you can see that it's got a very distinct boundary wall. As was the case with all of these field boundaries, at some point they will have stone walling. So that is the track across from the farm, and that ugly building in the distance is the developments that were made on the Delphill Middle School. As we look to the right there, we can see School Fold, all overgrown, and we have followed that across around the channel from the reservoir. So looking in the distance, we can see the listed barn. We can see the old barns, which are crude barns, which I've been told need to be taken down, and that will constitute part of the site. And on the old listed building site, there is fencing arrangements to be put in place. So that's the corner of the Moor Exchange, and that was the right of way which we believe comes across and picks up here on the right of access. So moving on, we're going to go towards the bridge. Let's have a look. Some rabbits in the field there. It's almost got the feel of a little sunken lane, as you can see. If we look across, you can see the extent of the land. Having spoken to one of the local residents, we've been informed that a few years ago there was quite extensive flooding, which just came across the back of the barns and at the back of those houses. So that flooding would have exited from the channel because the channel was blocked, and we've been informed that the owner of the land spent £37,000 on putting culverting in place because it was blocked. So on we go. There you have the clear demarcation on Greenbelt. There is a really good view of how high up the embankment is. That's the embankment that we filmed earlier on. The reservoir is directly behind that. Okay, so if anyone's confused, we're back on track, having walked the mineral track the previous day, and we're now going to walk up the centre of Park Bottom Wood, looking at the features as we head towards the terminus at Park Bottom House. So this is the other side of the bridge and the other side of the little culvert, which is actually supposed to flow out here and down the centre towards Park Bottom. So here we can see the other side of the stone wall, above us the mineral track. There's the culvert which would have run through, and you can see that's completely blocked. The essence is that the spillway water should run through here. So just a quick shot. This is quite heavily vegetated on this side, but you can see a lot of good quality walling made in this day, which just hasn't been maintained and has been left neglected. There's the embankment there. You can see some tie stones, and above that, where you have the small core stones and the ties, you have the little mineral track, and that is the water runoff culvert underneath it. And I'm going to just give you a glimpse of Park Dam. I beg your pardon, a glimpse of Park Bottom. So this little valley which is running through is quite a healthy, expansive land, very biodiverse. And if we have a look as we make our way out into the open again, this little section, if we have a look, if we just walk it a little bit just to give you a feel of the terrain, this little section, in fact we're going to walk it, this little section should take us over to the house at Park Bottom, and it's almost park-like in its appearance, hence Park Dam. So we're going to follow where this watercourse should actually flow to if it was maintained and cleared. So, apologies for the light levels. We're looking back towards the bridge. If we have a look, you can still see where this water track is supposed to be running through the trees. So to me it's a very long time since water has made its way down this spillway route to reach Park House at Park Bottom at the bottom here. But you can still see, looking at all of the crude mounds which will be associated in some way with mining, that this gully is what's left of the culvert, and it really must be quite old because of the age of the trees on it. So what I'm going to do is see how far we can go onward to the Park Bottom house. So let's keep going. Now these spoil heaps are clearly associated with mining, and there are a number of mines here in the area. You might want to just look at the British coal mine maps that's in the presentation just to see where we are. So let's have a look. This is clearly elevated and excavated. Just to our left there is the actual planning site, and we're on the boundary of that bounded in red and that bounded in blue, which is what they want to retain as biodiversity because it's technically in greenbelt. But we're clearly on a raised mound here, which is most likely down to mining activity. So I just want to go, in fact it wouldn't surprise me if this was a pit, so I won't stand there for too long. Let's go down the slope, just looking for evidence of bluebells, because it's the sort of little wood that you might find them. Yes, there we go. That stalk is expired seeds from bluebell. So this is a bluebell wood which has the protection of bluebell. Now we've come to the end of the sort of little culvert tech, and we've come to Park Bottom and the Park Dam house, or the Park Bottom house. As you can see from this fence, it now starts to become the garden for the Victorian house, or is this St Mark's Avenue? But you can see this, I believe, is Park Dam. You can see a monkey puzzle tree there, look. So I'm now going to go back out, looking back for where we came. You can see that large mound that we've just passed. Okay, so we have completed our site visit, noting the material planning considerations and concerns, and also memorialising these things in this video which you are watching. We will now translate those material concerns into policy from the NPPF, or the National Policy Planning Framework, to which the planning officer must have due regard. What is concerning is the lack of visibility on objections relating to the site. One outstanding question is, will these objections be available and seen by the statutory consultees, given they may contain material planning considerations? It is not for the planning officer to prejudice the application by failing to publicise any concern directly related to the site. In the remainder of this overview, I include a few slides in relation to the questions fielded by people attending the meeting of the 9th of the 9th 24, and to which there were no definitive responses.